Hey guys, have you ever heard of a high school sports reporter being adopted by a high school baseball team? This happened in 1985. You do not want to miss this story. Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Coach Smith and Mrs. Coach Smith. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button for us. In today's podcast, you're going to hear from the best sports editor in Mobile, his passion for writing, how he got adopted by the 1985 Shaw baseball team, which I was a member of that team, and his faith. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jimmy Wigfield.
Thank you, Coach and Mrs. Coach. Pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to visit.
Absolutely, man. We're glad you're here.
We go back a little ways.
Yeah. So honored. We're so honored to have you here in our little makeshift studio that we love, and to have you as a guest live right here with us. I mean, it's a big honor.
Well,
we're gonna have some fun.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here as well. I appreciate you asking me to come on and share some memories.
I mean, y'all got some stories. Now, just listening to you, you've really got some stories, but I have got to ask you just straight out of the box, because before we get into all of the Rebel days and the baseball and how a sports reporter got adopted by the baseball team, I know our listeners and our network is going to want to hear that. But I want to ask, first of all, Jimmy, how long have you been in journalism?
It's coming up on 50 years. So wow. I started when I was in high school, working for the Mobile County News, which was a weekly paper in Viola Battery. That's where I grew up, and started working for them, I guess, when I was around 13 or wow. so. And so it just went from there. And I got fortunate and got hired on at the Press Register when I was a sophomore at Spring Hill College, and was there 32 years. And then after that, basically folded up, as we all know. I got on with the Call News as editor. It's based in Central, but it covers a wide swath of Mobile County. Fortunate enough to get on with them. I've been with them off and on, mostly on, for 12 years. So it's piled up to about 50 years.
That's so awesome. Like, you knew early on that was something that just was your passion, that just lit you up. Where did it begin from? Like, how did you even get started in that at 13?
Well, even earlier than that, like at 13, actually writing for a newspaper. But my neighborhood where I grew up, and some people may recognize Robert Ladnier's name.
Yeah,
he covers.
He's a ball battery guy.
Right. Well, he grew up across the street. He and his brothers grew up across the street from me. And there were a lot of guys roughly our age in the neighborhood, and we would play whatever was in season. We had a big yard. Everybody tended to gravitate to our yard. We played football, and then we played basketball. We played baseball out in the yard. And so my mom and dad gave me a plastic toy typewriter for Christmas one year. And I put some paper in it, and we would play a game, and I would actually come back inside and type out like a little description of the game.
Wow.
And we took the Press Register, of course, and I would cut out pictures in the sports section and then tape them onto that page that I had typed, and would write a little headline on there and pretend like that picture was of us doing something. So that's how it got started, actually, was in the neighborhood.
Jimmy, that is so cool and interesting to me. And those were the good old days. I mean, I literally have a vision. I can smell my friends' yards. I saw you guys out there. I saw the neighborhood. Like, that just takes us back to the days when we would be outside all day and night.
You would stay until dark or after dark. We didn't play with computers and cell phones. We were outside playing. And you get filthy, and you'd get hurt and come limping inside or something,
drink out of the
water hose. That's right. We would stay, I think, till we got called in. And Robert's mother in particular, and she's passed on now, but when it was time for them to come home, she would step outside and she would whistle for them. And it was just the shrillest whistle you ever heard.
Well, one of them kind of
And-
whistles, you
But
know.
you,
just
you
echoes.
couldn't see her because their house was like off the road and kind of
Yeah.
behind some trees, but you knew
Yeah.
she meant, and whatever we were doing, it got stopped. That was actually
That was
the end of the game when we heard her whistling for Robert and his brothers to come home. So
You know,
You knew that
speaking
was
about
it.
old times and stuff, I miss going out in my driveway, getting the newspaper to read with a cup of coffee. I just grew up in that area. My dad, that's just something about it going out. Today, everything's through electronically,
Right.
and I still enjoy that, but there's nothing better as a kid going out, getting your newspaper, bringing it to your dad. And of course, we would fight over the sports page first, then
Yep.
we'd read the headlines, then we'd read the metro part and the weather.
all right.
But God, I miss those days. man.
Yeah, I've had a lot like you, Danny. A lot of people have said since the Press Register stopped being a daily paper, and now it's even ceased to publish at all.
Mm.
That people loved, like you said, going out, getting the paper, bringing it in the morning with a cup of coffee, reading it
Yep.
cover to cover.
Yep.
I can remember when I was still at home in Biola Battery and going to school because Spring Hill College was very expensive. It took a lot of hard work to go to school there. But
Mhm.
so I lived at home and I was working at the Press Register, and I would write stories and they'd be in the paper. And so like maybe a few days I might get to sleep late and my dad was not working. I would be awakened and listening to him read my stories out loud to my mother,
Wow.
Wow.
which I get sort of emotional thinking about that. But he was
Wow.
proud of
Man.
that.
What
But
an
to be able to
honor.
hear that, to hear him read
Yeah.
To
the
your
stories
mom,
to her, I sort of, I guess, and he wanted to know, of course, if I went to a game, or he wanted to know all about it, wanted to know what happened behind the scenes, and so we had a good time
Yeah.
talking about those things.
Yeah.
I love that. That's some awesome memories.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something else, guys. When Jimmy writes an article, you could just tell by reading it. He puts a lot of research.
Yes.
He does his homework. It's like, you got your favorite book. You don't want to put that book down until you read. You just binge on it. You read everything. I'm telling you, when Jimmy did those articles on UMS a few months ago with Terry Curtis, it was a 5-story, I believe.
Right,
A
series.
series, and you did it on Saraland. That was amazing with the research he did on UMS and all those games they won with Terry Curtis, with Saraland. Man, it was phenomenal. And I tell you, when Jimmy Wigfield writes an article, you're gonna read it and you won't put it down. I mean, you do a fantastic
Well,
job. with
I
that.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
Danny. I've always felt like little details are really important. It's
Yeah.
more than just going and saying somebody had 3 hits or
Yeah.
somebody scored
Yes.
3 touchdowns and do
Yeah.
a quick cursory sort of,
Yeah.
I like being able to dive underneath
Yeah.
and,
And that's a gift.
that's
That's a gift because not everybody can do that. And you do that and do it well, and you draw your readers in.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I really put a lot of emphasis on trying to notice
Mhm.
little details and really dig deep under the
Mhm.
surface to
You're so good
to
at
get
that.
things that maybe nobody else has, or maybe somebody didn't think about. So
Well, 32 years with the Mobile Press Register, right?
that's right.
And then 12 with the Call
Right.
Call
News, and
News.
you've been off and on.
Yep.
So
That's 44 right there.
Yeah.
So
yes, exactly. So what all do you do still for the Call News?
well, I'm the editor. So I edit not only the sports stories and write sports stories, but also edit all the news stories. And it's the Call News actually was bought or joined a group called Deep South Media back last
Mhm.
summer. So it's
Okay.
the Call News, Washington County News, and then there's 3 papers in Clark County. And so I've been, editing for them as well. So the Call, of course, I think came to prominence with Willie Gray and Rhonda Gray being the publishers, and they, very thankful to them that when we were let go at the Press Register, that we had already worked out the possibility for me to come and edit for them.
Got it.
So I was able to continue
And just move right on and transition into.
continue that.
Yeah.
And they've been real good. And I think, that newspaper serves a real, it's a valuable, it's a valuable thing for people, because a lot of people in this, particularly this part of the country, and I mean the South, not just Alabama or South Alabama, who still really love to get a paper,
Yep.
a newspaper, and have that printed
Yep.
product in their hands
I
rather
agree.
than reading it online. We do offer news online, but there's still a lot of people out there
Yeah.
who
They
like to
want
read
that
it,
printed version.
and they want to be able to clip stories
Yes.
out, especially if they've got children or grandchildren playing sports. They want to be able to build scrapbooks like you used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing with me and all my brothers, man. We got our name in the paper and the box score. You
Oh,
cut
yeah.
that thing out. You had a photo album, man. You kept it in.
That's
And I still
right.
got them to this day. Back when I was in high school, and
That's
all my
right.
brothers played, sports and stuff.
There's something special about seeing your name in
Your
print
name.
instead of seeing it on a phone, a smartphone, or a computer screen. If it's online,
That's
there's just
it.
something a little extra special about cold hard print, seeing Danny Smith.
Yes, yes. Well, I have to throw this in now that you're saying that, because when you got here and we were talking a little bit and chatting, and you guys got so excited and fired up, it didn't take you a second. And I was so super impressed with the whole file that you had still of newspapers.
Well,
And they're folded well. You can still read them.
Check
so this
Check
is the
this
file. Now
out.
this is the file of all the notes and score sheets and stories from Shaw's 1985 march to the state finals
Yeah, we're
in
gonna get to that
baseball.
in a few minutes.
Danny was part of.
And you can
And-
still open those papers
Yeah.
up and
Yeah.
see their names and,
I mean, and this was what, over 40 years ago, 1985.
This is 1985. You can see how big these papers were back then, how wide or broad
Yes.
they were. Of course, the papers these days are much narrower
Yeah.
because you're trying to save on costs with newsprint and everything. But yeah,
That's
they're
just
not in
amazing.
bad shape
No.
for being
Yeah.
the
40
pictures
years
are still
old.
there, the print is still there. And I mean, like you said, going through and then picking out Danny's name in there, or seeing, some of the guys and
Mhm.
everybody y'all were on the team with, and
Man,
picking
brought
them
back a
out.
lot of great memories.
That
Well,
just-
And again, this goes back to what we were talking about having the actual hard copy, even after all these years, is you can go back and, and I'm sure, other teammates of yours and parents, when this was going on, saved
Yeah.
Mhm,
those papers and cut them out and made scrapbooks, and you can still go back and
mhm.
take a look. But I
That's
did this
so
with
cool.
all the, a lot of the teams I covered. I never throw. I'm like Joey Warner. I'm like, we don't throw much out. So
That is so cool.
this
man.
just sits in a
In a
in
cabinet.
a cabinet and I'll take them out every now and then.
I'm sure in 1985, you didn't know in 2024 you would be getting
That's
in
right.
my garage talking about
No, but
your journalism career and talking about those days.
but I'm glad we are. And it didn't really take that long to find it. A few nights ago, I was digging around, like I think I know where that is, because I had actually not been that long ago that I came across it and was looking at it.
I love it. And just the thought of getting you and Joey Warner together, or having that time. Maybe we'll have to do another episode and have both of you
Oh my
on,
goodness.
because
The two JWs.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
call
that's right.
I call him the other JW.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I love that. So tell our listeners, I know they're probably wondering, and our network, how can they find a copy of the Call News?
It's sold at a lot of grocery stores and convenience stores, and again, it's based in Citronelle, but it's sold in Saraland and Satsuma, and I think there are some locations here.
you used to be right here at the Walmart down
Yeah,
on Dolls Road.
that's
That's where I
right.
used to get it from. I
That's
don't know if
right.
they still do, but they used to.
And you can go online, www.thecallnews.com, and you'll see content on there.
thecallnews.com, and we'll link that. We can
Yep.
link that in the show notes.
And so those are the primary ways. And, the call, we call it the call. It covers, Citronelle, Saraland, Satsuma, Chickasaw, right on down here into Mobile, and then up, and then via the Washington County News, Chatham, the Washington County schools, Leroy, Chatham.
Hey, you cover them all.
Okay.
Plus now they've added the 3 in Clark County. So actually the 5 papers together cover a pretty wide swath of Southwest Alabama.
Man,
That's a
that is
pretty
so
good
cool.
territory.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is big. Well, let's get to the favorite part of this podcast that I've been waiting to get to. I've been chomping at the bits over here. Okay, we're going to talk about the 1985, our magical baseball season, where it was my senior year of high school at Shaw High School. We made it all the way to the state finals. Okay, so before we talk about the state finals and our playoff run and how Jimmy covered us, but the funniest thing ever happened. So when we won our region, we made it playoffs. So Jimmy came out to Municipal Park and did a feature article on us, a story on us. So man, we thought that was really cool that a sports reporter, all year we hadn't seen anybody. He comes up at our practice and does a story on us about making the playoffs. So it wasn't just one time. So we won a couple games in the playoffs. Jimmy just kept coming more and more and more. And next thing you know, he's out there practice with us, shagging balls, taking ground balls. After the practice was over, he was out there, man, raking the infield, packing home plate, packing the pitcher's mound. He just became one of the guys. So, and he developed the best relationship with me and all the guys. And so after everybody left, we're in the dugout now getting our stuff together. There's Jimmy hanging out with us, just shooting the breeze with us. So Jimmy kind of walked off, and me and my best friends, Dale Shirley, Mark Fincher, Dean Sclopan, Danny Daigle, we all looked at each other and said, man, he is part of our 1985 team. He's like one of us. So we kind of adopted Jimmy in our senior year to be a part of the team. So I think that was the first. Anytime a high school reporter became adopted by a baseball team.
Well, and that was a very memorable time, and really enjoyed that. And I tried to teams that I would start to zero in on if they made the playoffs and started to go somewhere. I would try to. I would do that same sort of thing as a way of getting to know the players and the coaches. And again, that goes back to digging under the surface.
Yeah.
And, little details and things like that. And just makes stories more interesting, I think, when you get to know the players. And that particular year, as you well know, Shaw wasn't expected to go far. Satsuma was really good that year. And Murphy was really good. We were talking about that a little while ago with the talent that they had.
Yeah.
And Shaw had a good year, but not a great year. And they weren't really expected to go far.
Our overall record was 20-14, that year. So I'm going to talk about the playoff run and what is, happened for me and Jimmy and the baseball team. It was just a phenomenal run. We had so much fun. I can remember like it was yesterday. So we get in the playoffs and we faced round 1. We play Satsuma at Satsuma.
At Wright Park.
At Wright Park. And Jimmy, do you know who their stud was for Satsuma that year?
Wade Ward.
Wade Ward.
Yep. Outstanding player.
He's the younger brother of Turner and West Ward, all those Ward boys. I mean, they're like Mr. Satsuma out there. They're phenomenal baseball players. So we bring Dale Shirley, a friend of mine, undefeated all year, 10-0. We're facing Satsuma. It was just a phenomenal game at Wright Park. Is that right?
That's right. It was if you remember, it had the dirt infield. Remember, they didn't have grass back in those days. They had the dirt infield.
We used to pick on Wade, and Wade's a good friend of mine now. And we said, man, we used to go play in that softball field in Wright Park. Girls softball is all dirt infield. It
was a pretty good sized ballpark, actually, though, to the fences and all. It was, pretty good size.
So get a recap on that game real quick. And I hope you're watching this, Mr. Ward. So it was 1-1 going into about the 5th inning. And had a man on first and second. And Mark Fincher got up. And we called him, I think Jimmy might have gave his nickname.
Chief.
So Chief got up, and I'm telling you, he hit a bomb out in the lights, hit a 3-run homer. Ended up winning round 1, 4-1. Okay, it was an exciting game. So
And
I
he-
followed Fincher that game.
And he was in an 0 for 13
Oh,
slump
yeah.
before he hit that bomb out of there.
No, he was due.
Yeah, he
That's
was
right.
overdue.
So I followed Mark, yeah, and I ain't gonna lie, I went for the fence, I couldn't let Mark outdo me, I ended up flying out the right field. So what a game, and I'll never forget, and they were home, the bottom of the seventh inning. Do you remember what happened, Jimmy? And how we ended the
I
game?
think it was Wade Ward was up to bat, and I don't think he had not struck out all year. This was over 55 or 60
All
roughly
year.
at bats. Had
Yeah.
not struck out, and I think there might have been a runner on, or maybe he had a chance to keep
Keep them
keep the
going.
game going.
He might have been at the time run at the plate. I know they had a man at first. I'm not exactly sure. They had a man on first and second.
And Dale Shirley struck him out.
Struck him out. First time he struck out all year.
And I think Wade was like the first to come out and congratulate.
Oh, yeah.
Shook his hand, shook Dale's hand.
He didn't just come out, he sprinted to the pitcher's mound. I was like, oh my goodness, we getting ready to have a brawl or something? And he stuck his hand out and congratulated Dale.
Yeah,
What
he sure
a class
did.
guy.
He really
In
was.
that moment that he didn't pout, throw his bat down. He sprinted out there and looked Dale Shirley in the eye and said, man, congratulations, y'all deserve it.
Wow.
So that was exciting round one, man.
And that really sparked, I think it gave you guys the confidence from that point to this is far from over.
Yeah.
We're not going to just lay down and
we were
go quietly.
Not to stop then.
And Satsuma was 20-4 going into that game. And by the way, we were led by the late Joe Lofton. Man, I can't say good enough things about Coach Lofton. He got us ready to go in the playoffs. We were just above 500 team in the regular season. But man, he pushed us and he encouraged us and told us we could do it. And he was a big part of us making that run in the state finals.
He was a real gentleman coach, terrific coach, and sort of quiet, I would say, compared to some of the other coaches around at that time. But I remember through the playoffs, you guys did such a good job of two-strike hitting and two out performance at the plate. I think the first couple of rounds you scored, all the winning runs were with two outs the first two rounds. But anyway, Coach Lofton told me, I think after that Satsuma game, he says, well, in the preseason, every one of those guys that came to bat at BP with a strike on them already. Yeah. And so you were learning how to be clutch or hit in the clutch and to hit under pressure.
Yeah. We did work a lot of situational hitting.
Situational hitting.
It's 1-2 right now. 0-2, 3-1. You know what to look for.
What do you do?
He did a phenomenal job. Of course, he played under Eddie Stanky. He taught us Stanky ball.
Yep. So he
knew. I loved it. Never give up. Play as hard as you can, and be aggressive in everything you do. And it kind of rubbed up on. It did. It rubbed off on all of us.
That's what that team really became known for was that sort of style of play.
Stanky.
Yeah, I played at Eddie Stanky back in the 70s. He was a phenomenal baseball player. All right, so moving on. Round one.
Let me ask another question there. Do you know how long did he coach? Like, how long was he a coach?
God, it was got to be over. He got into coaching, teaching. Then he left, went for oil rig or something, worked offshore. Then he came back. Yeah.
Okay.
Came back to Shaw. He coached at Murphy for years. Was a baseball coach there. And
so he did coach in other schools or other areas.
He probably had like a good 10 to 15 year coaching career at both schools. Very highly respected.
Great man. Great man.
And he was a lot different from Coach McCrory, who came before. Coach McCrory was a lot more fiery, I guess you'd say, than Coach Lofton.
Hey, can I tell a quick story real quick about Joe Lofton before we talk about Murphy? Okay, this is kind of, I don't want to take a right here, but it's kind of a little right. But anyway, make a long story short, I'm going to tell you real quick, so I want to get back to talking about Murphy. When I played for Joe Lofton during the regular season, we played a Friday night region game and we got beat. We looked awful. Okay. He said, I want to see y'all back up here at 8 o'clock Saturday morning practice. And we didn't usually have a doubleheader following a Friday night game. Right. So Saturday morning, we show up at 8 o'clock to practice and we worked and we worked. He was furious. He called us every name in the book and just got on us and everything. So after practice, he was mad and didn't say anything afterward practice. So I walked down to my car at Municipal Park to get in my car, and I had a flat tire. I'm what, 17, 18 years old. I didn't have a jack. I didn't really know what to do. We didn't have cell phones back then.
Mhm.
So I walked back up there, didn't really know what to say to Coach Lofton, and he was still just, getting his things together. He said, "Hey, Mr. Smith, what's wrong?" I said, "Coach, I got a flat tire." Do you know that man went down there, jacked my car up, took the tire off, plugged it back up, had an air pump,
Wow.
aired my tire up, and put it back on. That's just to show you what kind of man he was.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I just like, God, and I learned so much from him. Yeah, you want to win, be competitive, but the big picture thing, that man lived a life of giving. And I can still remember that how much. It gives me chills telling that story.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. He could still be that hard edge coach on you, but he was making an impact for your life off of the field as well.
I think the players love playing for him.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a player's coach.
All right, so round 2 is coming up. Playing Murphy. Okay, at Municipal Park.
That didn't turn out too well for you, but it turned out pretty good for the team.
So they were led by the shortstop. I know Jimmy knows.
Yeah, Dwayne Jones.
Dwayne Jones signed a baseball scholarship at University of South Alabama, and I believe he got drafted out of high school in the later rounds. But ended up, I don't know, did up sign up at South, or did he go on and play pro ball?
I think he went on and played pro ball, if I remember correctly. But he was one of the best players in not only Mobile but the state.
Oh, he could hit. Now I'm telling you, he could swing the bat. So we go in that game. Murphy was 20-6 going into it. I mean, they were favored to win. They were loaded. They had a lot of talent. The game went back and forth all the way up, maybe to the 5th or the 6th inning. So I know it was the top of. Let's see, it was the bottom of the 6th. I got a hit. I was on first base. And I was the tying run. Okay, and it was 2 outs. No, I'm sorry, it was 1 out.
1 out.
So it was a routine ground ball hit to the shortstop.
Hit to Dwayne Jones.
Hit Dwayne Jones. So I'm on first, and I got an aggressive lead, and I can hear Coach Lofton and Jim Sudahay coach first base. Remember Jim Sudahay?
Sure do.
Jim, he said, "Hey, look, Danny," he said, "look, you got to break up a double play. If they turn a double play, the game's over and we lose." So I'm thinking that. So I get an aggressive shuffle, routine ground ball hit back up the middle. I said, "Oh my goodness, man." And I'm going, and I'm not the fastest guy in the world, but I'm running really, really hard. Now I did something really stupid you shouldn't do. You never break up a double play going in head first. They teach you to go in feet first, aggressive slide to break up a double play. That's just good, clean baseball.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I went in head first, and he went up. Dwayne went up, instead of flipping the ball to second base, he was going unassistedly to turn the double play, and he threw his knee up, and his knee hit me right in the face. And it knocked me completely out. I was out.
You went down like a shot, I remember.
Yeah.
You just boom.
And so I don't remember anything. I was out. So literally, I remember waking up in the hospital. As a result of that, I broke my cheekbone. I broke my bones around my eye socket. I had to have surgery. And I'll never forget, in the hospital, laying there, and I kind of woke up a little bit, and a lot of my teammates come in there, and they pulled that screen back. I was in the emergency room, and they all, "We won! We came back and won!" I had no idea that we won until I was in the hospital. And come back, and we come up, and we got out of that inning, we came back, and we scored like 2 or 3 runs, ended up beating them 9-8. That was an exciting game.
And that was a 2-out rally again.
2-out rally.
In that game. And that was the game where you got busted up pretty good. And Jeff Davis was next in the semifinals. They weren't going to let you play then because of the injury. And you did come back for the finals to play, and you had to wear a football helmet. And I remember taking a picture of you with Coach Lofton, looking at the football helmet. You're going to get to be the DH in that series, wearing the football helmet.
Wearing the helmet.
Yeah, and I want to play against Jeff Davis, and it's like the doctor said, "No, you can't play right now." My face was all swollen. I had stitches in my face, and I remember going to that Jeff Davis series. Jeff Davis, it was a double header. It was 2 out of 3 at this time. It was actually in the third round. You only went 4 rounds back then.
That's right.
And man, is at Municipal Park, packed out, and end up beating them 2 out of 3.
And that was, Shaw won the first game, lost the second game. There was just some kind of controversy in that second game. I think where coach intentionally ordered a couple of intentional walks that backfired. And I remember there actually was some kind of fight after that game between parents or fans or something.
Yeah.
And because they were upset with his
I
decision.
remember that. Yeah.
And of course he was like, well, I stand by my decision, and he reasoned why and all that. So the next day was the deciding game, and that went 10 innings. And then you all pulled it out 7-4, really exciting game.
Wow.
And I think the thing that people may remember about that is Jeff Davis's coach was really outspoken about playing at Municipal Park, and he looked down on Municipal. He didn't like it. He called it his exact quote to me after the third game was, we had to play in this damn goat pasture. And
we worked hard on that goat pasture.
Because
we took a lot of pride. Jimmy even helped us in the goat pasture.
Yeah.
And they still talked about it.
But he, they're used to playing at Patterson Field up in Montgomery, nice, really nice facilities. And then they had to come to Municipal Park, and they just really looked down on it.
So he was blaming it on that.
Well, it's like, it's just, this field's too short, and the infield's not right, and there's all kind of complaints that he had about it. But and I know after that quote, and that was in the paper the next day about calling it a damn goat pasture. And Danny and some of the other guys were like, well, we're just glad to still be grazing in our pasture, and Jeff Davis is not. So
it was just great times, great memories. And like I said, man, we're still grazing in that goat pasture, And
I remember too, that y'all really hadn't broken loose with the bats the first couple of 3 games of the playoffs. You were winning, having to come from behind, but you weren't like getting 10, 12 hits. It was more like 4, 5, or 6. And y'all were taking some extra BP before that third game. And we were talking about this a little while ago, but this is a very superstitious team. And I did a story about the superstitions. One of the superstitions was that they had to listen to Hank Williams Jr. before BP. And so
I know some of the guys watching and listening is going to remember that.
And it was somebody's, I don't know who had the Camaro, but usually it was being played out of a Camaro.
Tim Cimento.
Okay, so he had to put Hank in to BP, and did it that day before the third game against Jeff Davis, and it seemed to work because you seemed to kind of hit the ball better. And there were a lot of superstitions. The Hank Williams, you had to listen to Hank.
Then Dale
Dale Shirley had to have Pat Wilkinson, the catcher. Dale had to make sure that Pat threw a ball over his head during warm-ups because if he didn't, you didn't feel quite right. So they had to do that.
What about Mark? Mark had a nickname.
Chief.
Chief.
Yeah, Chief.
Nick
Oklahoma. And he got really red hot in the playoffs that year.
Oh man, he carried us in the playoffs.
And I think he hit well over 500 in the playoff.
After he got through the 0 for 13 slump, he got a home run.
That got him on track.
All the way through. He had a couple more home runs, had just a ton of RBIs. He was on fire.
And then the players had to stack their gloves in the dugout in a certain order. I can't quite remember there was one had to be on the bottom, one had to be in the middle, one had to be on the top. It had to be the exact same way, because if you didn't do it, it was going to result in some bad luck.
A funny thing is, during the regular year, we asked Coach Law, hey, Coach, can we listen to some music while we're taking BP? Absolutely not. You stay focused on this, and So he finally let us listen to a little music, Hank Williams, and we started winning. Coach, can we listen to music? Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
Music. They go put that Hank Williams song, Hank Williams Jr. song on.
So Hank Williams had something to do with the success of the Rebels in that magical run.
Man, we had guys like Shane Orr, Paul Everett. I don't want to miss anybody. Dean Sclopan, Danny Daigle, Bart May. Just already mentioned Mark McGowan. And those guys, man, I stayed in. We still talk about that magical 1985 season where nobody didn't give us a chance to go as far as we did. We was barely over 500. We didn't have a lot of pitching, and Dale was our stud. Dale was 10-0.
Yeah.
Dale wasn't pitching; it was a pitching by committee.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
everybody
was.
threw. Paul Everett was a great athlete. He pitched some. Shane Orr was a phenomenal athlete. He pitched some. It was just like, okay, it's your turn to go see if you can get 3 outs right here. And we had to outscore people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that. You had some good ball players in that. I mean, it wasn't like you didn't have any talent, because you certainly did.
Oh, we just didn't have a lot of pitching. We had some
The
talent.
pitching,
We could hit.
yeah, you really were
tough
really were thin in the pitching. But it goes, you'll see that a lot, where a team that maybe didn't play that well in the regular season, once they get to the playoffs, especially the way it was set up back then, you had to win. It wasn't 2 out of 3 every round like it is now. You had to win, or that was it, the first couple of rounds anyway. And so, when you get put under that sort of gun, you're forced to concentrate maybe a little more, and things start coming together and coming. Of course, you guys were winners, and I just think it took that little extra pressure, being like win or go home, to really bring the focus in. Yeah. And from that point, it played extremely well.
Yeah.
I love that. And I just get amazed every single episode of just listening to you guys remember. I always tell Danny, y'all can remember the jersey, the smell, the color, the names, the who you played with, who you played against, what field it was on, all of the things. And I love that. It's just powerful. So I know some of our listeners and our network are going to remember 1985. And that time they probably played against you guys. I'm sure there may be some that, come up and say, I remember that team. I remember those guys.
Yeah.
So,
well, getting to the finals, we'll talk about that. And it was time to wrap this thing up. We've got a few things we'll talk to Jimmy about. Yeah. So after the Jeff Davis series, we go to the state finals playing Butler of Huntsville. We had to go all the way to Huntsville, Alabama.
Yep.
So we got a charter bus to go. And so when Bruce Berg and Jim Soday was our assistant coaches, and they had a list of everybody goes on the bus, all the players. Well, we had to do a checklist. Joe Lofton, check here. All the players, our bat boys were on there. And nonetheless, at the bottom of it, it's got sports reporter Jimmy Wigfield, and he was on the bus with us. I mean, it's like the team, but also Jimmy Wigfield's name was on that list to make sure he got on the bus with us.
Didn't want to miss the bus.
And
go ahead.
Oh, look at all that good stuff, man.
Well, I was looking for something in particular, because you're talking about finals. Yeah. If I can find it in here, because I know I saw it.
Henry Hardy was the AD.
He's head football coach.
Head football coach and AD.
And also, we had usually pep rallies are set aside for football, but we had a pep rally for the baseball team to send us off. Sure enough, I showed Jimmy in my old yearbook. There's Jimmy sitting up there with the baseball team at the pep rally, cheering on the team, man, sitting up on the bleachers.
I remember the pep rally, and that was just, I just enjoyed that so much. Of course, you're supposed to stay objective when I did. I mean, being objective doesn't necessarily. This is what I was looking for. Look at that.
Oh, man.
You did have to be objective, but deep down, I'm sure in your heart of hearts,
you like to see people succeed. You like to see them succeed, and you can still be objective and tell it like it is. Yep. But being objective doesn't necessarily mean writing something bad about somebody, and there wasn't really much bad to write about when they were on that run.
Right.
But still, you want to see them succeed and play well, and you got a real sense when I got to know them, how hard they worked and how gritty they were, and those are the kind of players and the kind of teams you like to see succeed.
Absolutely.
So what Jimmy gave me right here is an itinerary. It's an agenda. Each day, Thursday, May 16th, 1985, 6:30 in the morning. Leave Shaw and Trailway bus. 11 o'clock, arrive at Hufford High School in Birmingham, located at Old Springfield Road. We stopped in Birmingham, took some BP, and we actually practiced, ate lunch on the way to Huntsville.
Plug in Hank.
Yeah, played Hank. Oh, absolutely. Played Hank
Playing
on the
Hank,
bus too,
exactly.
man. I wasn't a big Hank Williams Jr. fan until
Till
1985.
that happened.
This is so cool. Anyways, gives you 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And exactly, Coach Lofton was so organized, had it from minute to minute in detail what we were doing.
Yep.
You got to have this when you keep up with a bunch of high school kids,
Yeah.
especially back in 1985 Shaw Rebels.
Well, it helped me know, I think, where you all were going to be, and it helped me in my planning to where I had to be at certain times.
That is so neat that you still have that.
I just saw this
It
a
just
few
is.
nights ago when I
It
was
is.
looking at that, and
I love that.
So,
And there's the whole itinerary.
the itinerary for the entire trip.
1985.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
didn't turn out, of course, the way you wanted, but still, I don't. That ball club, the 85 ball club, I think got every bit out of what you had, every bit out of your abilities, and I don't think you can ask much more than that.
Mm.
So we ended up losing, they swept us 2 games, but it was like 11-8 and 14-9.
Yeah, they were high scoring games.
Yeah, high scoring game. We scored a lot of runs. I had the opportunity to play again with the football helmet, and just a magical year. We came up a little bit short, but I will never forget that, and never forget Jimmy covering us and our run. Just a great time, great memories that you'll never forget.
That's right. I'll never forget it. It's one of those things where you look forward to going out there every day. You're gonna get to practice, gonna get to shag some flies, maybe get a few cuts in the cage.
That's right.
And they were really fun y'all were really fun to hang around with, and just a loose group.
Mhm.
But when it came time to get between the lines,
Yeah.
it was dead serious.
Yeah,
Mhm. You got it done.
that's right. So
I love that. Well, I don't want to take the focus off because I love hearing the stories, but I do have a couple of other questions that I
Sure.
want to ask before we completely wrap it up, and we may have to do part 2 for sure.
yeah.
But I would love to know what really motivated you to become an editor, and what is it that keeps you motivated to be an editor? What is it about that you that you love? What draws you more to that?
Well, when you're an editor, of course, you're dealing with not just what you're writing, but you're dealing with what other people are writing. So, I think a good editor wants to make sure that what everybody else is writing is good and accurate and, easy to read. And it goes back to improving what they do, maybe teaching them how to do things better. And, you want to present a professional product
All the way around.
all the way. Yeah. And, but, being an editor, of course, I enjoy, having a lot of say so in where stories go and what kind of shape they take. Maybe if somebody files a story and there's some missing elements in it, and I'll get back with the reporter and say, hey, you need to call this person and ask them X, Y, Z, because something seems to be missing here. So again, it goes back to making the story better. And it's, that's an editor's role. My name's not going to be on that story, but whoever's name is on it, whoever's byline is on it, the story was better because, I looked at it, and then they worked a little extra hard to get maybe some details that were missing. And I think
that's so good.
You need, good editors are essential to newspapers and internet website, news sites.
Yep.
And of course we don't want to get sued either. So,
Exactly.
we might, you have to make sure
that have that extra set of eyes.
That's right. Make sure things are properly, there's proper attribution, and that we're not saying anything that's libelous. Or
because copy is so important. But does it bother you or twinge anything in the digital streets nowadays? Because the things that are digital can be copied, can be, it's just such a different era.
It is. It's a lot of things that are put on the internet are rushed onto the
Mhm.
internet in this quest to be first. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with trying to be first, but I've often always felt I like being first as much as anybody, but we're more concerned about being right than necessarily being first. And, you do see a lot of stories out there on the internet where there's, you have to question whether this is factual. And you
Yes.
see a lot of errors, spelling errors, typographical errors.
Yep.
When you start seeing that kind of stuff rushed out, I've always having properly edited copy, so there's no misspellings,
Mhm.
punctuation's right,
Mhm.
construction's right. That really cuts to the heart of your credibility. If you can't,
Oh, yeah.
if you
Oh,
if
yeah.
you throw out a story with a bunch of errors in it,
Right.
people are going to look at that. Readers are going to look at that and go, well, they must not care about the quality.
Mhm.
They must not care about the accuracy.
Yep.
Mhm.
I
Um,
agree.
and so, I do care
Yeah.
about that, and we, the Call News
Mhm.
does. And a lot of other papers do too. But
I think it matters too, like we were saying earlier, because you're very detail oriented and you build relationships, and you can tell that just that you guys have been talking about throughout your history, um and that projects into your stories, and it draws people in,
well,
and they want to read that. Like, I want to pick up the paper and read that. That's just good quality writing and reading and writing,
well, it's we like to win awards. Everybody likes to win awards. And that's great to do. But like the more important thing to me, more to me than anything else, is to have guys like Danny or maybe somebody else that I covered 20, 30, 40 years ago, come back to me. And I run into them somewhere, and they'll they'll talk about how much that story meant
Yes.
to them, or how much my practicing with them
Yes.
maybe meant to them, or that I took time to get to know them, and for them to remember that. And now I'm coming across guys who I'm covering their kids.
Oh.
I covered them in
Oh,
high school.
wow.
Now I'm covering their kids.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's really, I mean,
That's a whole nother ball game.
that's special
right?
to me. It does date me somewhat, but I do enjoy, you know, a player saying, "Hey, my dad, you remember my
Yes.
dad? He, I think you covered him." And maybe I'll even run into the father, and we'll start reminiscing like we're doing here.
That's something really special.
That
to
is
me.
very special
That's-
to me.
That is special. And and you've got that bond, you've got that connection,
Right.
and you're still doing it. That's how you know that's your purpose, your
Mhm.
passion, your calling, right?
Well, I do feel like that has always been my calling, and I've had, because of what happened at the Press Register, where it basically got shut down, 2012, and stopped being a daily paper. Well, had to go do other things, So I did, worked at the Call News for a while. I got into automotive sales at Joe Bullard because I love cars. Wasn't all that good a salesman, I don't think, but it was a learning time. So I've done, I've worked in the golf industry for a while. And, but got the opportunity to come back full time with the Call News, and, very appreciative of that. And I do feel like that despite these other things I've done, that I've always felt like journalism was my calling. And that's what the Lord put me on this earth to do. And that's how I feel about it.
That, and, with you saying that, we always stand on faith, family, fitness, finances, freedom, a whole lot of football, and having fun. And that's what we like to just bring when we want to highlight our guests, but we want to show that, hey, the world's really kind of upside down and stressful right now, but we can still have some fun. But on the faith side of it, I'm glad that you brought that up because it's really, really important to know that. And it sounds like to me in your story that even starting out really, really early and really young, even with the typewriter where you said you would go in and,
Yeah.
you know, you already knew that that was something in there,
Yeah.
but you continued to chase it. You continued to cultivate that. And look what it's given you in life.
That's true. I've been very blessed. You know, I always felt like that anything I write, well, let's put it this way. I often will pray, and I'm not ashamed to say it. If I'm going to an assignment or working on a story, it's like, Lord, help me to put the words in my mind and
That's so
coming
good.
off my fingers, and help me to observe things and help me to ask the right questions and dig deep enough. And, because I can't do any of what I do without him.
Man, that's so good.
That's so good.
And so it's really almost more like not so much me writing, it's like the Lord working through me to reach people.
Yes.
And
when you ask him and invite him and he's there and it happens, then
that's right.
That's it. And you're giving him the honor.
That's right.
And the credit. So
and I because I feel that way. I've always felt that way, but I think especially here the last few years, I was very grateful to get an opportunity to come back and get back into it. That he's like, I'm not finished with you on this particular occupation, let's say.
Exactly.
And it just kind of came naturally to me, and I think again that's a God thing. It's not something that I ever had to really struggle to understand, or like, do I really need to be doing this? Do I really want to do this? Yes, I do want to do it. And I guess
that's your ministry.
It was if you want to call it that, yes. I think because and I'm grateful that it's had an effect on so many people. And again, it's not anything I've really done. It's the Lord giving me the opportunity to do what I've done. So he wanted me to do these things and to get to know people and to write things that people, I guess, remember. And
that's a gift. That is a complete gift.
But again,
not everybody has.
But again, that's him working through me. That's not really me doing it on my own, because I certainly can't. Any good thing that I do is only because of him.
So, Jimmy, as you telling that story, it made me think about one of my favorite scriptures. Maybe everybody knows who Sean Alexander is. Played at Alabama. Right. You know his jersey number?
It's 37.
37. And why he chose the number 37 is Psalms 37:4. It says, delight yourself into the Lord and he will give you desires of your heart. It's just like Jimmy's got a great story how he got into journalism, or worked for Mobile Press Russia for 32 years. That was his passion, his love. Then he had to go sell cars, stuff. He still enjoyed it, but he knew what his passion was. So Jimmy, got right and prayed and got right with the Lord, and look, gave him the desires of his heart. Now he's back in doing what he likes to do. I enjoy doing it. And that's just a great, great story.
Well, thank you.
And it's just a representation that we can all do that. And God gives us gifts and talents. We just have to ask him, what is that? And where do you want me to use it today? How do you want to use me today? I'm the willing vessel.
Right.
And partnering with him. You just partner with God every single day, and it comes out in your writing and in your stories, and he gives you those relationships. I love that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. I guess deal. I guess it's time to wrap it up. I hate to wrap it up.
I want to hear some more stories. I want to dig out those newspaper articles again.
There's a lot of stories now.
Well, I got some pizza. We're going to talk about old time, eat some pizza as soon as we get through with this podcast.
I don't know that anybody has ever heard of a high school sports reporter being adopted by their high school baseball team, but you did tonight. You did today. And I think it's a pretty incredible story. We hope that this has blessed your heart completely. And You can find the Call News. We want you to go and look it up. If you have not read the Call News or been involved with that yet, if you're not local, then you can look that up. It's thecallnews.com. You can find this JW, Jimmy Wigfield, there, and reach out to him. Let him know that you saw and heard this on our show. And we're just truly, truly honored to have gotten to spend some time with you tonight and reminiscing about everything that you shared with us.
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege for me to be here, and it was certainly worth getting a haircut for. I must say, I got a haircut today.
And being in our garage studio, we call it Coach's Cave.
Coach's Cave.
Coach's Cave.
I like it. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Very much.
Well, good deal. All right, guys. We will see you next time on Inside the Red Zone with Coach Smith and Mrs. Coach. It's 4th and 2.
What you gonna do?
All right. See you
Let's
next
go.
week. Take care.